let's talk how I am so confident. I do want to preface this whole conversation with the fact that I know for some reason a lot of like girls in the curvy community take a lot of offense to the comment of like, how are you so confident, or like, I wish I was as confident as you. And I do think it's because like how it's worded and also the relationship those people have with their audience. I do want to acknowledge that comment doesn't always come from the best place, but I think you guys, because it is asked a lot for me, I think it comes from like just like a legitimate place of wonderment and aspiration, right? Like you guys are struggling with self-image or confidence issues, and so you legitimately want to know my story and how I did it. So that's the whole point of why I'm making this video, because I feel like, one, my story and like what I've been through can help someone else, but also I trust you guys and know that like there was no ill intent on like wondering how I'm confident or whatever, you know what I mean? So with that said, I guess like let's get into the story of Jaina and how she became who she became and why she became who she became. Why she became who she became. The other thing I do want to actually acknowledge is the fact that I am not 100% confident all of the time. I still find myself struggling with certain body image issues, and granted, I am a lot better from like when I was a teenager, or even the version of myself that was a few years ago. I don't think you ever like fully can embrace being confident and loving yourself, because I think that especially someone who spends a lot of time on social media, like you're constantly being fed this like idealistic beauty standard, and it can be hard to not have it get to you. So I am a lot more confident, but I'm not always confident. But I would say that my confidence journey really started right when COVID was happening. So like 2020, like early 2020 is really when I think I started doing a lot of like self-reflection and self-work. At the time, I was working in fashion and beauty PR, which the fashion world is not the most accepting, regardless of what people are working towards and moving towards. Overall, like it is a industry that has a lot of exclusivity, a lot of judgment, a lot of just like, to be quite frank, whitewashing. And although I really did enjoy the team I was working on in fashion beauty PR, and I loved my coworkers, I did feel really out of place, being, you know, one of literally 2 people of color in my office, being like one of the only curvier people there. There were only a few of us. A lot of them were like very slim, very blonde, very white. Granted, that was like my dream job at the time. That was like the ultimate goal. It really did kind of kick up a lot of feelings of like, am I pretty enough? Am I skinny enough? Am I meant to be in this industry? Like it brought up a lot of like insecurities as well. And on top of that, I also was dealing with being in a really toxic and manipulative and abusive relationship where I was being fed like, let's just say anti-affirmations. So instead of being these like told you're like strong and powerful and beautiful, it was like the antithesis of that, and it was like you're ugly and you're weak and you're fat and you're undeserving. So let's just say I was not in like the best headspace prior to kind of like trying to work to regain my power in a variety of aspects of my life. Then COVID became a thing and we all were told to quarantine, so my office had to close, and literally like maybe a week, not even days into quarantine, the agency I was working for decided to pretty much lay off the entire company, which I guess just speaks to the fact that they weren't in the best financial position, but whatever. That kind of was like a wake-up call for me, because when you don't know anything else, you're like, oh shit, like I just lost my dream job. For me, it brought up a lot of like fear of like financial insecurity, because I already wasn't making a lot at that job, but at least it provided like things that could pay my car payment, like could feed me, like things like that. And kind of simultaneously, like while that was happening, like I previously had been like trying to cut things off with my ex, and there was obviously like a lot of resistance and manipulation from the other end, but I was trying because I had something in me like was finally realizing like things were not right and I was not gonna ever be fulfilled. So that's the catalyst. That's where like everything started, right? Like that was like lost my job, going through like trying to literally, it felt like mentally escape a relationship, and just like really having to like re-figure out who I was, right? Because now I'm not Jana the influencer beauty PR guru. I'm not Jana the person who is feeling like they're stuck in this like horrible toxic relationship. I'm Jana that is now single, trying to figure myself out, and also trying to figure out like what my next career moves are. So that was kind of like the catalyst, and I would say that is like the moment, like the day I was laid off was the day that I ultimately like 100% was like, I am choosing me in every single aspect of my life. And that act of like being selfish, and I know oftentimes being selfish has a really bad connotation, but I meant like I was choosing me. If it was between me and something else, it was me. Anything that did not serve me, did not make me feel comfortable, did not make me feel valued, did not make me feel good, I didn't do it. With that, I began to like ideate like what were the roots of that trauma and that insecurity that almost like made me feel weak, right? Like my job maybe had a part in like making me feel misrepresented and not valuable and things like that, because I wasn't physically seeing people at my work environment that were successful and looked like me. And then also like I wasn't being valued in the relationship I was in. I was then also like having like I had all this unhealed childhood trauma and a complicated relationship with my mom. So there was like all this stuff now that I was like, all right, I'm choosing me, but now I need to like work through how all of these decisions have then impacted who I've become, because I kind of like no longer recognized myself and I didn't feel good about myself. I was super insecure, and that was like physically, mentally, emotionally, like every way you could feel bad about yourself, like I felt. While I was having that like self-realization of like how much work I had to put in to really like figure out me again, I also was kind of posting exploratively on TikTok just because I had always wanted to be a content creator, but I was always told that it was not something I would be good at or I would be able to achieve. My friends were most supportive and thought I would kill it. My ex would literally not even allow me to have social media, and I realize now that that was just a form of control and insecurity on their part. But regardless, I unfortunately had listened to that and kind of like never tried to officially pursue any sort of content creation, like because of what he was telling me. But nonetheless, I'm posting exploratively, trying to have fun, going out for a lot of walks with my dog, and really just like doing tons of reflection and like while I was experimenting on social media and just like having fun with it, like doing makeup or whatever, or just like doing like silly TikTok trends, I kind of came across like spiritual talk, which is a subgenre that literally blew up as of recently, but it was a very, very small kind of community thing. I took that as a sign from the universe that like I needed to like hear or see that stuff. And I know now it's kind of become something like very much like not real. Now there's just tarot card readers that are like, if you're seeing this, this is your sign and this message is for you. But then you look and there's like 10,000 likes. But it really was, and I'm not even kidding, it felt like I was purposefully and intentionally getting downloads from like the universe as far as like what I needed to be awoken to. And 2020 was when I really learned about self-love and manifestation work, and kind of like tools to heal childhood trauma and things like that. And I used them. I was an affirmation queen. I was saying affirmations. I was honestly like sharing my affirmations online, and those affirmations and the conscious decision to live selfishly and like a very respectful way that would never hurt somebody was what kind of awoken my reappreciation for me. And again, like while I'm doing this or watching and consuming this content on spirituality, I'm also like putting in the work to heal myself. I'm using those tools to implement them in my everyday life to hopefully, right at the time, I'm like hoping it'll all work and I'll just be me again. Let me tell you, they worked. I can literally tell you the affirmations I would say every night. I would say, I'm loved, I am powerful, I have abundance, and I have clarity. Because clarity was like the most important one for me, because I felt like for so many years of my life everything was groggy and unclear. So I just wanted so badly to finally see things clear, because I felt like between like the content I was consuming, the industry I was working in, the relationship I have been in for so long, like my whole view of vision, like my whole vision, my field of vision was completely distorted by other people, and I just wanted to be able to see the world clearly again. Then one day, I made the silliest TikTok talking about like how it was like skinny, oh no, chubby but technically skinny check, which is funny now because now I realize that is before the term mid-size was used, and now my whole brand in a way is surrounded by mid-size style, and blew up over 1 million views. And that's when I started building momentum and a following, and finally started seeing women be like, hey, like my body looks just like you, I look just like you, and thank you for sharing that, like you're the first person I've seen that looks like you, and whatever. And I know oftentimes like your whole self-worth and everything shouldn't be based off of like other people's view of you, but in that moment it definitely helped me feel seen and appreciated for who I was. And I will say, had I not already had like started all of this self-work that I was doing, it probably wouldn't have impacted me the way that it would, or the way that it did. But it was almost like the final like click, you know, where I was like, shit, like one, I'm seeing the possibility of this career that I always wanted to have be open to me, someone like me that I thought would never excel in being a social media content creator. I am being seen by these people. I am being appreciated by these people. Yes, there were haters, but like I'm very good at drowning out the noise. And I was like, I am gonna run with this, and I am gonna do everything in my power to make sure that I can spread love and light and like help women whether that is like inspiring them to love what they're wearing, just making them feel appreciated because my body looks like their body, inspiring them to start using affirmations, inspiring them to leave the toxicity behind, inspiring them to just put them first. Like, that was my moment where I realized like what my true life purpose was, you know? I think a lot of my self-confidence has come from realizing at least what I do is, and who I help, you guys, is the most fulfilling thing that I could ever do. That's where my confidence comes from. My confidence has come from breaking down those generational traumas, recognizing them through a lot of spirituality work. I've done Reiki, I've done meditation, I'm a psychic, you guys know, that I talk to regularly, and all of that like was great, and it has made me appreciate me as I am and validated me as me, but nothing makes me more confident than knowing like I'm on the right track. So if we're then talking about like what advice I would give someone to like find their confidence and be truly appreciative and confident in themselves. Wow, what did I do to myself here? So if we're talking like what advice would I give someone who is struggling with self-confidence and all of that, is realize where, oh god, we gotta blend that out. Like, do some self-reflection and think like, what has caused you to not be confident, right? Like, where does that stem from? For me, it was stemming from childhood trauma, it was stemming from my career, and it was stemming from my past relationship. So think about like where that self-confidence, like where you lost it, right? And what are the factors and why? And then once you've thought about it, if it's something that you can work to like actively remove from your life to feel better, listen to your gut, and no matter how hard it is, work to set those boundaries or completely remove that thing or person from your life. And yes, I know it's way easier said than done, but that is like your first step. If we're talking about step 2, right? Like after you do that, what do you do next? Is just do what feels right for you. Put yourself first. Be selfish. You know, and I think the more and more you choose yourself first throughout your life, the more and more you grow more confident legitimately in like your decision making. When those decisions work out well, you grow confident in yourself and being able to like decide for things and choose you, and that is kind of like where your confidence will begin to build, right? 3 is the longest and hardest part in growing to self-love, is having a sense of like being self-aware enough to realize what your trigger responses are. And that is a long journey. I am still going through that because you don't realize it at the time, but oftentimes you have these like let's say like, imagine as if someone just like put a USB into your brain, right? And it was like all this negative self-talk that you have ever heard said to you and received, and now you're hearing it as your own voice. You get what I'm saying? So like realizing what triggers that negative voice in your head to make you feel bad about yourself, and then going back into the files, figuring out why you feel that way, who said it, did you say it, did you see it, did someone say it to you, like who put that in your brain, and then unplug the USB. That is as literal as I can make it. And that is a journey, and it's not easy, and every day is not going to be the most self-love filled day ever. You're not going to be the most confident person in the world every day, but you will notice in time and in practice, you will be the most confident you have ever been before. Now, if we are talking about just plain old confidence in clothing, right? Because that could also be another question, or like another thing you guys meant when you asked me, like, how am I so confident? I would say, again, let's think back to what made you feel like you could not pull something off. So it's a similar step process, right? Like, let's go back, think. What made you feel like you could not wear something or pull something off, and why? And then, objectively, was that a valuable source of information? Most likely it's not, because it's not ever, like, anyone telling you you can't wear something is never useful, ever, unless it's like dress code, you know what I mean? Like, let's follow a dress code, but not like you can't wear X, Y, and Z because of your hips. We are not what not to wear. Because when it comes to clothing, you have to just wear what feels good to you above all else. Like, don't think about if you can pull something off. If you can't, try it on. Take risks and just like wear what feels right to you. I don't know, you guys love my fashion sense, but I kind of wear the same rendition of the same outfit pretty often. You guys go crazy for it. I love how hard you ride for me, but it's what I love, and it's just my comfort zone, and I will probably wear the same rendition of the same cut pants, layer the same way, and all of that in different ways, and no one would even notice because I just wear it and feel like a boss. So that is pretty much it, and that is what I have done to build my confidence and really find my way and learn to appreciate myself. You guys have found this video insightful, inspiring, and I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on if anything I said was useful at all. Like I said, it is just what I did to build my confidence and why I am as confident as I am, and I just hope that I can continue to be an inspiration for you guys to love yourselves and work through life and realize that you can choose you in every situation that you can, and it starts with you. Like, the confidence, the happiness, it all starts with you. And if you like this video, you guys can subscribe, give it a like, and we can continue finding more amazing women like ourselves and keep building this beautiful community we have that I am forever grateful for.